welcome to Sports Extra, another weekly episode and your premium online sports show. I'm your host, Ruimbo Chakoreka. I do have my resident analyst, Brian Matamba, but he's going to be coming a little bit later to discuss some of the things we have on board. So the Chevrons have done it. Thank you for heeding to our plea, and of course, a great big thank you to the Zimbabwe Cricket Supporters Union for going out there and making sure that it was jam-packed every time Zimbabwe played. So 100% record. What are the positives? What are the things we have to work on? All that and more. We are also going to be looking at some local rugby. Old Ararians, Marasta as they call themselves, are now the Paramount Garments Northern Region League champions, and they did a number over Old Georgians once again on Old Georgians turf. In school sport, we're taking a look at hockey. St. John's have done the business and they have won the league after that win against Peterhouse. Schoolboy rugby is also going to be on the cards. 3 losses on the trot for St. George's. How can they turn it around before the season is done? And of course, we're going to be looking at some international news. World Athletics is saying that, hey, the visa issue, we might not be able to solve it. And so we're going to be discussing a little bit more about how that should have been handled a little bit better, because former sprint champion, that is Michael Johnson from the United States of America, has said that it is pitiful and shameful the way matters were handled. All this and more in the next segment. All right, so welcome back, Brian. Always good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Ruimbo.
Oh yes, last week was quite intriguing.
Very intriguing.
And this week we've got so much more to talk about. So well done to the Chevrons.
Yeah, well done to the Chevrons. It was a much-needed win. We needed to qualify, having had that heartbreak in 2018. So this time the boys managed to rectify that heartbreak.
Oh yeah, definitely rectifying it with 100% record. That's quite phenomenal. They winning against all of the associates.
Yeah, 100% record. I think one thing I would commend maybe is the David Houghton effect. It might be early days, but it is the David Houghton effect. And the players, I could see they were expressing themselves more, because that's one thing David Houghton, when he took over the job, he said he wants his players to play with more freedom and with less fear, and with the beaten lineup, the way the boys betted throughout this tournament, they were betting with no fear.
Oh yeah, one of the other things, particularly when we made 199 for 5, I think it must have been against the United States of America. I stand to be corrected on that one, where the batting order didn't necessarily have a 50 in there, but there were 20s and 30s, good contributions pretty much all the way down the batting order.
Yeah, that's very commendable. When you have everyone chipping in with runs, it means that everyone is contributing. Unlike when you only have one person scoring a chunk of runs, it means that something has changed since David Houghton has taken over the reins.
All right, one of the other important things was the fact that the dressing room clearly had been lost under Lalchand Rajput, and everybody seems to be playing for the jersey. But let's now ask the pertinent question. The journey is not quite over yet if we intend to continuously be going to World Cups of this nature, because yes, we've qualified for the World Cup, but when we do get to the World Cup, there's going to be a qualification phase to get into the group stage. What do you think we need to get done now in order to ensure that we achieve that goal and target?
I think we just need to keep working hard, as we have been working hard under David Houghton. Because before the tournament, David Houghton took the players on a camp where they were out of the public's eye, and it seemed like it did wonders. So we also need to work hard, go in and make sure that we qualify, because qualifying into the group stage guarantees us that we qualify automatically in the next World Cup.
Oh yes,
the T20.
Oh yes, and talking about that, that qualification phase is going to be quite difficult, because you've got the likes of the Scotlands, the Irelands, and who knows, we might be even facing the likes of the Namibias as well, who beat us in a series 3-2. So that should be a little bit difficult. My concern, however, Brian, is the fact that we've got a number of players who are relatively young who aren't really stepping up to the plate, and notably so Wesley Madewere. I mean, he burst onto the scene with a couple of half centuries, went to Pakistan, did really well. But ever since then, it has been a downhill trend. In particular with his batting, he hasn't been able to gain consistent form. Yes, others will argue that more recently he had a half century or so in the Afghanistan series. But in general, his batting is no longer at the level at which we expect it to be.
Maybe I think we gave him too much pressure to deliver at a young age, because usually when you're that age, usually there's supposed to be a lot of senior players where you're just adding more value to the team as a junior player. But now we're now looking for Wesley to play the big innings, to become the mainstay of the team, yet he's still learning the trade of the game. He's still young. He hasn't experienced top level cricket for many years. So I think that's what's creeping in now, that there was pressure which was put on him at an early age.
Yeah, definitely a lot of pressure for him, Milton, Shumba. These are the youngsters that are breaking into the side. Even we know Tadiwana Shemarimani has been asked to open the batting, and at international level, opening the batting is such a key thing. But nonetheless, well done to the Chevrons, and we do hope that all of the things that we're talking about will be dealt with as quickly as possible. Let's now quickly shift over into club rugby action, and well done to Marasta. I mean, I've always wondered why they call themselves Marasta, since most of the side won't have Marasta inside them. But Old Ararians has done the business after a very long journey within this Paramount Government's Northern Region League. They are the champions, beating Old Georgians over the weekend.
Yeah, they are well-deserved champions. If you look at the way they played throughout the season, they were more of like comeback kings. Most of their games, they'll come back from behind and win the game. So it means they were a side which had character.
Yeah, talking about their gaffer was not present because he was attending to schoolboy action. That's Derek Chiwara. And Derek Chiwara, the last time that Old Ararians and Old Georgians met in a 15s final was when we had the Super 6, which was played before we went into COVID. And Old Ararians did it again at Old Georgians.
Yeah, it seems like they've got luck in Groombridge. It's like a home away from home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's now take a quick look at it. Do we feel it's adding the value that it needs to add towards rugby in its totality, especially the way that the league is set?
I don't think it's adding any value. The only positive thing out of this is that there's some form of rugby still being played in the country. But adding value, I think we need to revert back to the Super 6, because the Super 6 involved more teams from, at least you had teams from Bulawayo and you had a team from Mutare. So it involved everyone. So that was the beauty of the Super 6. Rather than having just the northern region, you only having only Harare-based teams play. And whilst they don't get tested against the teams from Bulawayo, so it's not good for rugby as a whole, developing rugby in the country.
Oh yeah, one of the other things to look at, I know that in Bulawayo, the Bulawayo Metropolitan League was also running and things like that. But looking overallly, it seems like we've only got 3 competitive sides that most probably can compete, so to speak, which is Old Georgians, Harare Sports Club, and Old Hararians. And we've seen that whenever the likes of Matabeleland Warriors came, they came during the 7s, they weren't able to proceed that far because the dominance of the Harare sides is there. So what do you think Zimbabwe Rugby Union needs to try and get in place to get the Bulawayo rugby clubs up and running? Because we remember the days of the Busters, the old Miltonians, and so on. Why aren't we getting much from all these other regions?
I think we need to go back to basics. When I mean we need to go back to basic, if you look at the schools in Matabeleland, it's only Falcon which is really playing good rugby. If you look at CBC, they used to be a powerhouse, but they blow hot and cold. Plumtree, they used to be a powerhouse. They're not playing as much exciting rugby anymore. Milton as well. Milton, actually, I would commend Milton. They're trying to get their rugby back again, and they've had more fixtures over the last few years. So we need to go back to basics. Get your Gifford, your Milton, your Plumtree, your Petra to be very competitive. In that way, they'll feed into the clubs, and the clubs will have more quality players. As long as schoolboy rugby in Matabeleland is not functioning will always have a club rugby which is not strong in Matabeleland.
Oh yes, the discussion concerning that would obviously go on, and you're free to also comment in the comment section. So make sure that you like, share, subscribe here on our YouTube channel. That's a Sports Extra ZW. When we come back after this short break, we are going to be continuing with school sport and starting off with hockey. Well, it was a big weekend in schoolboy sport, and we start off, of course, with the hockey, where, hey, I must say it was an intense encounter, but at the end of the day, it was St. John's College which came through with the 1-0 win over Peterhouse, and this is how they celebrated. So, Brian, now Milner doing a fantastic job at St. John's College. I mean, you just can't beat them. And now with that 1-0 win, they have won the league and they have got a huge representation even in the under-18 boys hockey team for Zimbabwe.
Yeah, I think congratulations there to St. John's on winning the league, well-deserved winners. But I think another added advantage to them, they've got an AstroTurf, so they've got all the time to practice on it. That's why they're doing so much well in schools hockey.
All right, one of the other things as well, I mean, when you look at the likes of Peterhouse, they were doing relatively okay. They've got a very experienced coach in Mr. Banda, but now Milner being the coach for Zimbabwe men's hockey, obviously bringing his tactics to the fore and getting them to win. But we want to hear more from the team manager before we come back, as he was saying, we're excited and we're looking to press forward with this form.
Totally. I mean, we are ecstatic. This 1-0 victory just gave us the league as well. That means that we win the league. And this hockey team has just gone from strength to strength. And what we're chuffed about is that, half the team is made up of 16-year-olds. That means that we've got a team for the future. That means we are forced to contend with in the coming season. So we're pretty excited.
All right. One of the other things as well that has been said, particularly about St. John's, you obviously have a gaffer who does well. He's coaching the Zimbabwe men's side, and you can already see the quality on the field of play.
I think that's obviously played to our advantage. I mean, Niall Milner is a very skilled coach and his tactics have been on point, and he's been passing on knowledge to these boys like nobody's business. And look, the boys are going from strength to strength. This is not only good for St. John's College, but this is good for the future of hockey in Zimbabwe. And, looking at the bigger picture, these are some of the boys that have made it into your different age groups for Zimbabwe, and that means the Zimbabwe men's national team is in good hands.
All right, you mentioned it, the league is literally settled. Now, what next for you as you look to plan towards the next season?
Next is Super 12. Before we get to the next season, the Super 12 for us is going to be, I'm sure Peterhouse want to come back and exert their revenge on us, but next is Super 12. We need to prepare for that, and the boys still need to have their game faces on, and we'll see how that goes.
Something is being done right, Brian, at St. John's College.
Definitely. If you look at the way they even recruit coaches, they're doing the right way, starting from under 14 right to first team. So it means that they've got a working hockey program.
Mm-hmm. A working hockey program. Talking about models as well, St. John's College not only dominated in the hockey, but they were also dominating in their football. When I then left, St. John's College was winning against Peterhouse. That was in football. And it just goes to show that when you've got a working model within sport, you can dominate for a while.
Yeah, it seems like it's working across all board. It's not only soccer or hockey where everything's working, even in rugby. So you could see that post-COVID, seems like St. John's are streets ahead when it comes to their school sports.
Oh yes. So anyway, let's just dive straight into that because from the hockey pitch straight into the rugby, St. John's College doing a double over Peterhouse this season.
Yeah, well-deserved double over Peterhouse. If you look at St. John's College throughout the whole season, I would say they've been one of the strongest teams in the country. Although they lost that match to Loma Gandhi when they were missing players who had gone to Academy Week. But in general, throughout the whole season, they've been the outstanding. They've been the well-drilled side. I would commend Max Madziva, Costa Dina, and Doug Trivella. They're doing some fantastic job at St. John's.
Yeah, I was talking about that as well. I mean, it was a 28-17 win. Peterhouse did try to, muscle it at Honeyfield, but they just couldn't muscle it, and we would have thought that that win against St. George's would have spurred them on to try and maybe get back on the winning wagon, particularly in big matches, but it's not happening for Peterhouse this season.
I think that win against St. George's, I wouldn't say it was a fluke, but it was an unconvincing win. So playing a better side like St. John's, they were found out. Hence why they lost the match, and hence why they lost twice to St. John's.
Yeah, well, I think there will be a lot more work that will need to be done if the likes of Peterhouse are going to dominate the local space. There was another huge result where both Brian and I were actually doing commentary, and that was at Weaver Field, where Churchill came out of the blocks. They had quality for more parts of the game and won 40 points to 20 against St. George's. Now, let's get to hear Jeff Madake and some of the tactics that he employed for the Bulldogs to win.
The last two times we've played, we drew. First time it was 15-0, and then second time it was 10-0. But yeah, today, we got on top of them, and I wasn't expecting 40 points, so I thought it would be a smaller margin, but yeah, I'll take the 40 points, yeah.
All right, one of the things, particularly within the first half, it was quite difficult. St. George's, for the larger parts, came at you very strongly. What was the discussion at the halftime break?
Well, I told the boys just to look after the ball and try and stuff them off the ball, and also try and defend better than what we did in the first half. And they went and they did, and they went and they did that. And then again, I told the backline, like by 12 and 13, to really start running hard at them and see if they could defend us. And they proved that, they couldn't really handle Shadrack and Derek. I think they were phenomenal.
Oh yes, one of the other things is that St. George's were, quite sloppy every time there was broken play, open play, and your boys just took advantage of it.
Correct, that's what I had said to them. Look, on 50-50 ball, we got to take charge and take control of it and just spread it out to Shadrack and Derek. And I knew that if Shadrack and Derek really run hard and they were given space, they would really penetrate and go through and score. And that's exactly what happened, yeah.
These are some of the big wins that you obviously need in a season to really, ratify most of the work that you'll be doing each and every time. How do you think this feels for the boys? I saw how they celebrated when the final whistle came out.
Look, they've worked very hard, so obviously that's why they were so happy. And it's never easy coming to FIFA, and that's why they were so happy. And I'm very proud of him. I'm so happy that they've won, because if they'd lost today, people would only remember this game. They'll forget about what they've done in the past. All the other victories that they've had against Prince Edward, against Milton, Plumtree, the draw against Gandhi, and so forth. But I'm very proud of him.
So Jeff Madake there clearly pointing out to the fact that he had his 12 and 13, in particular Shadrack Mandaza, just running hard at St. George's, and St. George's defense would switch off at times, Brian.
Yeah, they really did switch off in that game, St. George's. If you look at all the tries, most of them are against the round of play, which Churchill scored. So it means it's lapsing concentration, not concentrating throughout the whole match. That's how they lost that match.
Do you also think that maybe the rugby season has been a little bit too long for many of these youngsters who have not played rugby in 2 years to then understand in big matches like that, my apologies, in big matches like that, you cannot afford to lose concentration. You need to keep on going, and you need to make things happen if you're going to remain in the game.
I wouldn't say it's been too long. It's actually been a shorter season because a lot of teams didn't have a lot of games pre-season. So if you look at the amount of games they've played post-COVID, it's actually a short season if you compare with the past, the amount of games they used to play. So I don't think we could blame on a long season. I just think maybe it's a season where people have really started finding their feet again post-COVID. Maybe probably next year we'll see a better rugby being played by the schools.
All right, whilst talking about that, it's 3 defeats on the trot for Ricky Chirengende's side. And he had to point out that, look, you know what? It was the better team that won on the day.
Yeah, I did it, and like you said, the score is a bit harsh on us. But then again, like you said, moments, and that was what the game was about. When we had ascendancy and we were coming back into the game, individual mistake and costly errors just pegged us back further.
All right, one of the other things that I noticed as well is that in broken play, somehow the players were kind of switching off. I'm sure you were tearing your hair out at those moments.
100%. I think I've aged a little bit older after those 70 minutes. But again, a team like Churchill, where you've got very good runners, we can't afford to get out of our defensive system. And I think we did that more often than not, and that's why we're penalized on the scoreboard.
All right, and thinking about it, it was a good move as well for you guys to be playing against Churchill and things like that. And what do you feel that this has also done for the boys?
At the end of the day, it's rugby, right? We need our boys playing, and we need our boys playing a variety of teams, and not playing every school twice or etc. So I think for us, it's just exposing our boys to a different type of rugby, different type of school, different type of intensity. I think it just bodes well for their rugby future. So I think that's where the decision came from.
It has been relatively a long season, 2 weekends left. Are you looking to kick back anytime soon?
Yeah, no, it's been long, but yeah, we've got 2 big ones, St. John's and Peterhouse, coming up, and I think what we can only hope for is to finish strong. So yeah, we'll go back again on Monday and hopefully have a good finish and a good rest after that.
All right, so let's quickly do this one as we then shift to the other things that we have to talk about, Brian. Just looking at the overall season, I know we've only got round about 2 matches left, and you mentioned that St. John's is arguably your best side for the season. But let's talk about other, in quotes, lesser sides that have been doing the business whilst they're quiet. Teams like Alan Wilson and Heritage. They've been going about their business quite nicely.
And also Loma Gandhi.
Oh yes, Loma Gandhi as well.
Yeah. If we look at Alan Wilson, they managed to beat Churchill. That was a big scalp. Although another dent they got to their season as Alan Wilson, they lost to Waisawa, which was a shocking result given that they had beaten the Churchill Bulldogs. We thought they would roll over Waisawa, but they failed to beat Waisawa. But in general, Alan Wilson has had a good season if you look at the stats on paper. And also if you look at Heritage, they actually had a good season as well on paper. And Loma Gandhi is another side. The only blemish they have is that loss to St. John's College. And probably they'll be looking forward to increase their dominance when they play the Prince Edward Tigers this coming weekend.
Oh yes, and that will be a very interesting match. I do know that Sean D'Souza had mentioned that Prince Edward are in more of a rebuilding phase right now, and he wouldn't look too much towards this season's results. So, well, he said watch out next season. I'll be having your back, and we'll obviously be monitoring all of that action as it does take place. We take a short break. When we come back, we talk about visa issues. People just couldn't make it to the World Athletics Championships, or others made it 3 hours before their races. All this and more in the next segment. Now, for an athlete to perform at the highest level, surely preparation time is key, right? Diets, right coaches, all sorts of things are, components that make performance for an athlete really good. But one of the things that an athlete does not need is to arrive at the place where he's supposed to compete very late, Brian.
Yeah, that was quite a sad story there, what happened at the World Championship. I think America as a country, they should have given special treatment to these athletes when applying so that they don't go through the normal queue, because there's a serious queue whenever you want to apply for a visa. For some countries, I know in a country like Kenya, the nearest date you could get if you want to apply as an ordinary person is 2 years from now. So I think given that these are athletes and the world champions were happening, I'm sure they should have been given a special treatment for their application to not go through the normal process and be fast-tracked their visas.
Yeah, so whilst talking about that, do we then look at world athletics and maybe US athletics, which would be the local organizing body for these world championships, as having handled this unprofessionally? Because this was something that was said by even their former athlete, Michael Johnson, saying that it was pitiful and shameful, and this is what happens when things are not done professionally.
Yeah, we have to blame them, because how can you have some of your best athletes in the world missing the world championship? Some of them getting visas 3 hours before their race. How do you expect them to fly and compete, you know? So they need to take the blame. They cannot bury their head in the sand. They are to blame.
And to think that sometimes they're the ones that are complaining and argue, no, other countries are not organized. They didn't sort out things within their set time. And so I think this one is on you, US athletics. Surely you should have done much better. World athletics also has to intervene. They know all the people that have qualified for the world championships, because you do have your competitions where people get their times. Once their times are verified and set, it means they've qualified. And it's not like they don't want to come. They want to come, but all these processes hold them back. So hopefully that will be ironed out at some point. Do you think that athletes actually deserve diplomatic passports?
I don't think it is diplomatic passports.
Hey guys, I was appealing for you, but Brian says that dusted, not happening. But in any case, so that was World Athletics there. But a more disconcerting matter that happened as well over the weekend was the fact that Tiger Woods did not make the cut for the Open Championship. This is in the first round of golf, and he doesn't make the cut.
Yeah, it was a shocking result there, but maybe they say all good things come to an end. Maybe the sun is finally setting on Tiger Woods. Maybe his career is slowly setting now.
So is it time for him to move to the Live Golf Series? Get yourself a nice retirement package, big money being made in the Saudi Arabia-backed Golf Series?
I would say it's still early days for him to make that drastic decision, but slowly he must now start thinking that he doesn't have much time in the game. Probably he'll now be playing maybe social golf and other forms of golf, but at the highest level, I think he has passed his peak.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's got two majors to try and get to Jack Nicklaus's record of 15 major titles. Tiger Woods has got 13. So far, way ahead of many of the golfers that he's still playing with and those that he even played with before. Do you think that now he needs to maybe streamline his participation and look at just playing the majors, not play any of the other build-up tournaments?
You still need to play some of the build-up tournaments because they'll help you to get your form and you practice more. But at the same time, given that he's had a serious record of injuries, it's now time to share his workload so that he only maybe goes for the big ones. Because if he doesn't go for the big one and plays every tournament, he might not make the majors.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a lot more that needs to be done in that particular regard. Well, we're about to come to the end of the show, but we cannot end it without looking at transfer zone news. And so as we were coming into studio, it looks like Paulo Dybala has an agreement in place to go through to AS Roma. Join the Jose Mourinho bandwagon. How successful do you think Dybala will be under Jose Mourinho conditions?
It will depend if he's willing to work hard, because Jose Mourinho doesn't like lazy players. He likes everyone has to work hard. Whether you're a striker or you're a midfielder, everyone has to put in a shift. So if he's willing to put in a shift, he might be successful at AS Roma.
All right, so that was the latest one, but other big transfers as well took place. So Manchester United have confirmed the signing of Lisandro Martinez. He's a defender who was at Ajax with the new boss, Erik ten Hag. That might shore up the defense. But aren't we once again, I'm a Man United supporter, aren't we once again going back into the same ditch of having too many players in one particular position without addressing the needs and the matters of the team?
I think maybe Ten Hag, he wants to go with more players he trusts and who he understands. So maybe the reason why he's bringing all these players, some of them which have worked under him, is because he trusts them. So maybe we are seeing, maybe not in the immediate future, but maybe he's gonna ship out your Bailey and your Lindelof. Maybe those are the players, or your Maguire might be shipped off. It might not be right now, but he's planning on that. That's what I'm trying to gauge from what Ten Hag is trying to do at Man United.
All right, so with that as well, I think the biggest transfer, in my view, was that made by Chelsea, signing Kalidou Koulibaly on a 3 or 4 year contract. I think that is a phenomenal signing, Brian.
Yeah, and also the Raheem Sterling as well.
Oh, yes, yes.
So if you look at that signing, it kind of like strengthened the Chelsea defense, because it's one area where they were also lacking last season. They had Thiago Silva, but Thiago Silva age is no longer on his side, and some of the matches last season they lost because of their defense.
Oh yes, and while also losing Antonio Rudiger, that was also a big blow for Chelsea. So I think Kalidou Koulibaly is a phenomenal, fantastic signing. And for those that were thinking that Todd Boehly is interfering too much in terms of transfers on business, he's the owner, he's the chairman, he's the director of football, he's the chief negotiator. It seems like he's doing the business though, Brian.
Yeah, it's been a good start so far under his reign as the owner.
Yeah, so anyway, let's see how that will go for Chelsea as the season draws ever so closer to starting. But anyway, that brings us to the end of this particular episode of Sports Extra. Remember, like, share, comment, subscribe. We have been seeing some of your interesting comments. We did read those that came through on Raheem Sterling, that look, they bought another winger when they needed a striker, and Raheem Sterling misses for fun. That's what he was doing at Man City, but who knows, maybe he might be scoring goals at Chelsea under Thomas Tuchel. But keep the comments coming through, and don't forget to like and to subscribe to our social media handles. That is on Instagram and on Facebook. It's at Sports Extra Zim. And remember, the extra is without an E, and you can catch up with all of the sporting news that we'll be covering then. But it leaves me to thank our resident analyst, Brian Matamba.
Thank you for having me, Luimbo.
Oh yes, and of course to thank you, our viewers, for your continuous support. But up until next week,